Let's bring in the jury. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. You may cross-examine.
Ma'am, one of the things that you told us was that the reason you broke up at the third time, the final time, was that there were strange things that were happening, correct?
Correct.
And one of the things that was strange was that at one point you were living in an apartment, right?
It was a house.
It was a house?
Yeah.
And one night there was, or the door to that house had a security device. When somebody would come in, it would make a ringing sound, correct?
Yes.
And it was sometime in the evening that this front door made a ringing sound, right?
Yes.
You went downstairs, and Mr. Alexander was over at your house, correct?
Correct.
And the both of you went downstairs to investigate and found nothing, correct?
Correct.
The door was open, though, unlocked, correct?
There's more backstory
Okay.
to that.
So then, after that, though, one of the things that happened is that you asked, as a result of that, you asked Mr. Alexander to spend the night with you, didn't you?
Yes.
And he, in fact, did spend the night with you, didn't he?
Yes.
And during that night, he never made any sexual advances towards you, right?
Correct.
He may have kissed you, but there was none of this passionate kissing, correct?
Correct.
You were not in the mood for that night, right?
Right.
And neither was he?
Correct.
And he spent the whole night with you because of this incident, right?
Yes.
And at no time that night did he touch your rear or hindquarters, did he?
No.
And at no time did he touch any other sexual part of your body, correct?
Correct.
The other incident that created, or that you say where it was strange that was happening, was that one day you were over at Mr. Alexander's house, correct?
Yes.
And it was toward the time that you were about to break up with him for the third time, right?
Roughly, yes.
About how much time before that was it?
I'm not sure of the time frame exactly, but I think maybe in December, late December, early January, possibly.
All right. And during that time, you were in the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
And was Mr. Alexander in the kitchen?
Yes.
And while the two of you were standing there in the kitchen, did somebody come into the house unannounced?
Yes.
Was that the defendant, Jodi Arias?
Yes.
And is she the person that's sitting there to my left with the sort of tan top and the glasses?
Yes.
And when she came in to the house, she saw you and she saw Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And what entrance did she come in through?
The front door.
And when she came in and saw the two of you there, she turned around and just left, correct?
Yes, she ran out.
She ran out. And these incidents were the reasons why you indicated that strange things were happening, and that's why you ended up breaking up with him, right?
Yes.
You were asked about this particular email that you sent in 2007. Do you remember talking about that before lunch?
Yes.
And one of the things that was talked about with regard to that email was that something about tempted to kiss and that sort of thing. Do you remember that the email referenced that?
Yes.
Well, isn't it true, ma'am, that Mr. Alexander wouldn't kiss you at the start, would he?
Yes.
And in fact, the person who initiated the sexual contact, if that's what it is, was you, right?
Yes.
You told him to kiss you, didn't you?
Yes.
And he was the person that had been holding off, right?
Yes.
And you believe that the reason that he was holding off was in part because of your religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
There was this particular issue involving him touching you in the rear end, the butt, I think is what was said, right?
Yes.
After you mentioned it to him in this email, did he ever touch you there again?
Not unmerited.
In other words, it was welcomed after that, correct?
Yes.
And during this whole time, while you were with Mr. Alexander, and in the beginning, there came a time that the two of you began to kiss, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned something in this email about sex was nowhere on my mind, and something to the effect that you felt that he was too interested in sex. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Actually, what was going on, ma'am, is that you and he were engaging in what was a very normal form of showing affection in kissing, right?
Yes.
And during the time that he was kissing, and again, not to get too much into this, he achieved an erection, right?
Yes.
You did not massage his erection, right?
Correct.
He did not massage his own erection, correct?
Correct.
It was a biological response to your lips, wasn't it?
Correct.
And that, at that time, because of your inexperience, you thought that he should have controlled his penis from becoming tumescent or getting big just because he was kissing you. You thought that's what the problem was, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it was because of your inexperience, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to this whole time, in the beginning, the first time that you're with him, he never at any time forced you to do anything sexual that you did not want to do, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the fact that he talked a lot about sex, it was mostly in a joking manner in response to certain things that may have been said, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't like he was saying to you, we need to get down, baby, or anything like that, was it?
Correct.
It was more in response to the environment that was around you, correct?
Yes.
He never touched you, in other words, in an aggressive, physical way, did he?
No, he did not.
And during the second time that you were together with him, the issues that are addressed in the email, were they partially addressed? In other words, did he begin to pay more attention to you?
Yes.
And did he begin to be, in other words, caring of how you felt?
Yes.
And in fact, you indicated that he was the one that wanted to get married, right?
Yes.
And at that time, he was doing everything he could to conform to what you wanted, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't the other way around, that you were doing what he wanted. Now, he was doing what you wanted, correct?
Yes.
And at times, when things would come up, he would and I'm talking about a sexual fashion, he was the one that actually would stop because he was afraid that you would be adversely affected in that area, correct?
Speculation, knowledge.
Sustained.
With regard to certain times while you guys were involved, did there come a time when he stopped and you wanted him to go a little bit forward?
Yes.
So he was the one at some point that was stopping, right?
Yes.
Without telling what it was, he gave you a reason, right?
Yeah.
And it was a valid reason to you, wasn't it?
Yes.
And the same thing during the third time that you got together with him, during that time. At no time did he foist himself upon you sexually, did he?
No, he did not.
If he kissed you, it was something that was welcomed by you, correct?
Correct.
And if you kissed him, it was something that was welcomed by him, right?
Yes.
Did you, when you were in public with him, was it a situation where you were glomming onto him, grabbing onto him, hugging him, all of that stuff? Is that what you were doing in public or not?
No.
When you describe what the defendant was doing, is that what she was doing when he's speaking with these other individuals?
Yes.
He was having a conversation with other people at that time, right?
Yes.
And he was engaged in talking whatever it was, correct?
Yes.
And they were watching, right?
Yeah.
And she came up on him and just started to sort of put herself on him in what appears to be a socially inappropriate manner, right?
Yes.
And that would be your assessment of that situation, right?
Yes.
And even when you broke up with him these other times, the first two times, did he ever scream at you that he was upset that you'd broken up with him?
No.
But he did want you back, didn't he?
Yes.
My understanding or viewing of what was going on, it appears like it was a situation more of, and I understand that he was older, but a couple of high schoolers going back and forth with each other. Would you have qualms if I characterized it that way?
No, that's exactly what it was.
And as part of being in this high school relationship, you had very strong feelings, didn't you?
Yes.
And you expressed them sometime in a somewhat immature fashion, didn't you?
Yes.
And one of them was sending him this email, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's why you kept saying at that time, that's how you felt, right?
Yes.
And in retrospect, do you think that perhaps some of the comments that you made were a little unfair to him?
Yes.
And ma'am, with regard to everything that he did to you, and how you feel, and how you know of the circumstances and the situation that you were in, with regard to Exhibit 205, do you think in your mind, because you were the one that was experiencing, do you think that, do you,
Objection to that
Okay, council approach, council approach. May continue.
Sir, ma'am, with regard to you were being asked about how you were aggrieved about the fact that he may have been cheating with the defendant. Do you remember about that?
Yes.
And you were asked about, how many times he had been cheating, correct?
I'm not.
You were asked about that,
Okay.
right? And that was part of the breakup, right?
Yes.
Do you think that it is appropriate, given everything that they claim that he put you through, do you think that it is appropriate to take a knife and slash somebody's throat?
Objection, relevance. Relevance, and it goes with her opinion. Her opinion is not.
You may approach.
One of the things that you were asked about was Mr. Alexander's virginity. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you were asked about whether or not you had a belief about his virginity and a belief about his virginity afterwards, right?
Yes.
And this issue about his virginity was something that you and he discussed, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to the issue of virginity, that was something that was discussed by somebody else after this particular murder happened, right?
Yeah.
Objection as to the name murder.
Pardon? I didn't hear your objection.
Objection as to him referring to it as murder. Is there a
I'll say killing.
Rephrase.
And you had some conversations with some people involving his virginity after the killing, right?
Yes.
And with regard to whether he was or he wasn't a virgin, throughout this whole time that you were with him, did he, aside from certain items when he wanted to make out with you, that sort of thing, did he treat you with dignity and respect throughout this whole thing?
Yes.
At any time did he touch you by hitting you inappropriately?
No.
And the person who started this kissing thing was you, right?
Yes.
I don't have anything else.
Redirect.
I know that the initial time that you and Travis both started kissing, you're saying that you initiated that. Is that
Yes.
true? Okay, but you and Travis kissed more than once,
Yes.
many times, right?
Yes.
And according to your email, there were many times that you weren't just you were making out very passionately.
Yes.
And those were the times that you started to feel uncomfortable, right?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did you feel uncomfortable during those times?
Early on, because of my inexperience, I was 19.
Okay. You were 19 and he was 29 or 30?
Yes.
And during one of those times you said that he achieved an erection?
Yes.
And is that what made you uncomfortable?
Yes.
And once he had an erection, he didn't stop, did he? Stop kissing you?
No.
When the initial breakup you said was because you found out he was cheating, right?
Yes.
And When you got back together with him, did you believe that he had stopped cheating?
Actually, I got back together with him because I understood that he had not cheated and I had gotten faulty information.
Oh, okay. The faulty information you said came from his roommate?
Yes.
And so Mr. Alexander said that it was faulty information?
Objection leading. I'm sorry, you're saying. Leading.
Sustained.
So you believed it to be, you believe that the roommate wasn't telling you the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and is that why you got back together with Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
But in reality, did you know that at the same time he was dating you, he was sleeping with Miss Arias?
I did not know that.
Did you know that at the time after you finished dating him?
No.
So you never knew that?
I had my suspicions, but I didn't know
Okay.
the details of their relationship.
Okay. And you did know that they were going on, he was taking her on trips, right?
Yes.
And those were overnight trips?
Yes.
Objection beyond the scope.
Overruled.
All right, and during one of the times that, you said one time, you were asked the question about being over at Travis's house when Jodi came over?
Yes.
You said that, did Jodi come through the front door?
Yes.
And she walked right in, did she walk right into the house?
Yes.
And once she saw you, is that when she turned and she ran back out?
Yes.
And after she ran out, Travis was with you too, right?
Yes.
And after Miss Arias ran out, did Travis run after her?
Yes.
And Travis was gone for at least a few minutes, wasn't he?
Yes.
And you don't know what happened or what Travis said to Miss Arias, right?
No. I do know she had gotten in her car very quickly, though, and had gotten away.
Okay. But you don't know, Travis was gone for at least a couple of minutes, right? In other words, he didn't
Right.
just run to the door and then come
Right.
back. All right, so he ran outside.
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, he must have felt it important to chase her.
Objection speculation.
Sustained.
Which roommate was it that gave you supposedly the false information?
John Hepworth.
Okay. And you asked, well, after you broke up with Travis, did you date anybody else?
Objection beyond the scope of relevance.
This goes to the fact that Travis was calling her.
Overruled.
Were you dating anybody else when Travis was calling you?
Yes.
Okay, and that was after you had broken up with Travis?
Yes.
And is that part of the reason why you didn't want to answer the phone? Answer his calls?
Not really.
Okay. All right, but you did not want to answer his calls, right?
Right.
All right. And you said that you were asked questions about believing that Travis was a virgin?
Yes.
Okay. Despite your belief that he was a virgin, he talked to you a lot about sex. Is that right?
Occasionally, we contemplated marriage, so sex would inevitably come up.
Okay. But during your email, you discussed that it made you uncomfortable at times, right?
Right, very early on. After that, those issues were completely resolved.
Okay. And after the first breakup, when you thought he was cheating, and then you got back together, it was just within 2 months or so that he was talking about marriage?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
How many months did it take before he was talking about marriage? After you got back together after the first breakup?
It wasn't very long. I don't know the time frame exactly, but I would say between breakups it was only 2 months, so you may be correct in saying it took 2 months or so to talk about it.
Okay. And when he was talking about marriage, it was serious enough that it concerned you?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Were you concerned about it?
Not for myself. It was more I wasn't ready. He was, so maybe he should explore other options if he was that serious about it at the time. I was happy just dating at the time.
Okay. All right. And this was just a month or two after you had broken up with him for allegedly cheating on you, right?
Right.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further, Judge.
All right. It appears there is another juror question. I have a number of juror questions here. Counsel, please approach. Ms. Daydoni, the jurors have some questions for you. Did someone tell you that Travis was texting and calling Jodi and another female?
No, actually, Jodi and another female had texted and called several times while we were together. Jodi called numerous times while it's almost as if she knew we were together at the time.
Did you know this before you started dating Travis the second time?
Yes, I was aware of the calls and the texts all the time.
Was the email you sent to Travis before or after you heard he cheated on you with Jodi?
It was less than 24 hours after, so I was very upset.
Did you ever refer to Jodi Arias as a stalker of Travis Alexander?
Yes.
Did Travis ever call you names?
No.
Did you personally feel threatened by Travis?
No.
Was Travis ever abusive to you?
No.
Did he ask you to have sex with him?
No.
Did you feel pressured to do anything?
No.
Did Travis ever make sexual advances to you while you were dating?
No, just all it was making out.
How do you define cheating?
What I understood it to be and what I would still understand it to be is if you are in a committed relationship and you, whether you're kissing or any other sexual activity is going on outside of that committed relationship, I would consider that cheating.
If you were shocked to hear Travis was a virgin, why did you break up with him after you found out he was cheating on you?
I'm sorry, could you read that one again?
Yes. If you were shocked to hear Travis was a virgin, why did you break up with him after you found out he was cheating on you?
No, I believed him to be a virgin, and so I broke up with him because I had understood he had done whatever it was with Jodi. That's what I had believed, and then he had told me that was not the truth, so I did get back together with him after that.
Did you feel that Travis' job interfered with your relationship with regard to travel and phone calls?
Yes.
Any other questions from the jury? Follow up, Ms. Wilmot.
Ms. Daydoni, you said that you had referred to Miss Arias as a stalker before, is that right?
Yes.
And during the time that you were with Travis, did he say some crazy things about her?
Yes.
So he would tell you these things?
It's also from my own experience.
Okay. She also, or you also, so you were there when these other women would be texting or calling Travis?
Yes.
During the time that you were together, you did have a chance to see Travis's temper, though, right?
I can't recall a specific time.
Do you recall him telling you that he was sorry that he scared you with his temper?
Approach.
Tony. What I'm asking is, do you remember Travis ever apologizing to you for scaring you with his temper?
The only time I recall was after,
Just do you remember him saying that?
yes, one time.
Okay. And you told him that you didn't like to see him like that.
Yes.
All right, that's all, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
Why? You said that he sent you that text. Why did he send you that text?
Judge, may we approach?
You may. The afternoon recess at this time. Please be back in the designated area at 3:25. Please remember the admonition. You are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. The record will show the jury has left the courtroom. Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
Ma'am, why did Mr. Alexander send you that text?
It was one of the nights that something strange had happened, and
That's strange. You can tell us
Kinda-
it's strange.
is that,
You may.
okay.
I'm going to object.
Right.
That's not his witness, so I believe it.
Well, Judge, I'm objecting. May we approach?
You may. Actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a recess, and I'll meet with counsel in the back room. We have an additional question as well.
All rise.